Unfortunately, there's no shortage of cruelty in the world, and consequently, cruelty is something that could call for at least a little bit of thought in attempts to understand it. What we call cruelty could be construed as cases wherein I, excuse me, treat another person very poorly, wherein I either physically and or emotionally or some other way, such as through manipulating material resources or what have we, put another person down, treat them as an object, treat them as worthless, treat them as nothing, as having very little value. What enables this kind of treatment, and what, if anything, could go some ways towards reducing the amount of cruelty that we see? We see that here, perhaps essential idea is that I have or am, depending on the phrasing we prefer, a unique vantage point, right, which is all encompassing, a unique kind of perspective outside of which I cannot step even a little bit. So, for instance, imagine being, just for the sake of a simple example, imagine being a baby, or imagine being a baboon, or imagine being some other kind of critter or creature. We see that a baby can't take a break from being a baby, even for a second. Right? A piggy can't take a break from being a piggy, even for a moment. So it's not necessarily that the baby is what we see and call, oh, that's the baby. The baby is a certain case of conditioned, say, sentience or experience, a certain vantage point. And again, there's no stepping outside of it. And the same then is so concerning one's own self. I could call myself just a body, or I could call myself just a self-concept, but a deeper perspective seems to be that there is this vantage point onto reality, so to say. It is a totality, and it is in its entirety, excuse me, conditioned, meaning it's one out of many, right? Again, imagine being a baby. A baby can't stop being a baby, and yet the perspective of the baby is not the only perspective in the universe. There's many perspectives. The baby doesn't know that and cannot know that and cannot take a break from being a baby. We get the point. So anyhow, I then, in light of this fact, as far as it seems to be a fact, construct my concepts of other people based on the material that I have personally at hand. Being that I can only look out onto things, so to speak, from my own particular vantage point. I can't even be you for a second, right? Not even for a moment. I can't quickly see things from a truly different angle. I can intellectually see things from different angles as an exercise, but not truly. So consequently, for me to envisage what another person is like, I have to build up that concept from the content that I have myself experienced, right? That which I know. And I can use it to mold a form that I then kind of take to be another person. So for instance, let's say that I was born blind and I have never seen even a little bit of sight content. And then constructing a concept of another person, I can, once I'm grown up enough and I've been taught, verbally say, oh, other people, unless they're also blind, can see. I can say that. But what does that mean? Assuming I've never had any sight whatsoever and don't have it still. I have no idea. It's something, some kind of experience, but I've never had it. And I can't even imagine remotely what it's like. Like what do I see in the back of my head for a sighted person? It's not that it's nothing, it's not that it's something. There's nothing to say. Get the idea? So I can only then, as the blind person, construct my concept of another using the content that I have experienced, which excludes here sight. So just so in all other instances, if I have never felt a given emotion, if I have never been through a given maturational phase of life, I cannot truly conceive what it is like. A child cannot conceive, even for a brief instance, what it is like to be an adult. But an adult can, by recalling what it was like to be a child, at least have some idea, depending on the strength of the memory today, have some idea of what it was like to be a child. But if I've never had any kind of experience or never have participated in a certain phase of human development whatsoever, again, as concerns the child and the adult, there's nothing to say. So, as it concerns the topic of cruelty, we say that the fact that there is so much cruelty in the world, right, that so many of us are so willing, so quickly to dispose of others, to abuse others, to torture others, unfortunately even to kill others, to kick people when they're down, to illicitly try to enrich one's own status, wealth, success, fame, power at the expense of any and all others as needed. The egregious examples of such being simply exaggerations of what is ubiquitous, meaning taking a power-hungry dictator who obviously is willing to slaughter, goodness forbid, millions of people to secure power. That's just an exaggeration of something that at some level we all are liable to do. And so on with other such extreme examples. What that seems to indicate is that our concepts of other people are very impoverished. And they are impoverished because we're building them out of the material that we have in hand. And that then says that that material that we have in hand, that I have in hand, is itself very impoverished. Meaning it is very lacking. It put in plain terms, I don't truly think much of myself. I don't truly ascribe too much value to my own self. So consequently, how can I ascribe much value to you, whoever you are? How can I put prospects of your humanity, of your individuality, of your goodness and such above my desire for profit, my desire for power, my desire for fame, my desire for revenge, my desire for feeling good at your expense? How can I do that when I don't even have any of that concerning myself? So consequently, when another person spites me, when another person is in the way of my desires or the satisfaction of my desires, in the way of my ambitions, I construe them as nothing. The concept that I have of them is based on what I think I am. And what I think I am is not much. So I think you're not much. So if you're not much, why not get you out of the way, one way or another? Why not be cruel to you? Why not, goodness forbid, have a genocide? Right? Why not have plenty of violence and torture and such, which has obviously riddled and continues to riddle our history as humans? Why not? If we're not worth much, if we're simply for the slaughter, as it's been said. Conversely, if I have some notion, at least, of the value of an individual, which I can only know firsthand by seeing my own value, if I have some conception of what a human being can be, of the invaluable price of higher human values, such as goodness, such as truth, such as love, such as beauty, as realized in individual concrete persons, not somewhere out there in the clouds, only in individuals such as is oneself. If I have some such sense of my own value, then and only then can I attribute that sense to others and the concepts that I of them form. I value myself, not in a selfish way, in the way that would have me be cruel to others, but in the way of impersonally appreciating the potential for the realization of those higher human values, for the instantiation of goodness by way of individuals. I value that in myself, and then I can see that in you, and I can value that in you. And then I am that much less likely to be cruel. Because if I see you as valuable, why would I be cruel? And if I see a piece of trash, it makes sense that I throw it in the trash. I see a pebble in my way, kick it aside. Why not? It's just a pebble. However, if I see a chunk of gold, I'm not going to just kick it to the curb unless I'm, a little bit off or something else is going on. If I see something valuable, $100 bill or high currency, some or another bill, I'm not going to just toss it in the trash again unless there's something off with me. I'm going to pick it up, put it in my pocket, and cherish it. So I have to find something valuable in order to treat it as valuable. And I have to find people valuable in order to treat them as valuable and not be cruel. And in order to find people as valuable, I have to find myself valuable. So it all starts with one's own self. Try to identify some potential in my own self. Try to have a little hope for the latent goodness and humanity that I have at some level or other. And if I can do that, then perhaps I can begin to imagine or understand that that's so with other people too at differing stages of development. Right? Somebody has a little bit more goodness than me, somebody a little bit less, but all the same, I can then construe people as essentially valuable. And consequently, that probably is the best buffer against tremendous cruelty that has always ensued and continues to so do, while we attribute no value and worth to other persons because we attribute no value and worth to ourselves. So we can consider it. Thank you for listening.